We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Good evening. Good evening. Fashionably late, just slightly. Yeah. I had to wait for Jared to finish getting his haircut. So we were,
This is not on me. I was here at 4 a.m. like a good military veteran waiting for you.
You military guys are never late. You're always on time. No, look, I think this is partially on both of us here. We were, well, maybe more so. We spent about 30 minutes here. We hopped on early and we were just talking we were just trying to solve the world's problems. Yeah. And before I knew it, it was like, oh God, we're running a little bit behind. And I had to put some things on and download some things to make sure that we were ready for the show. But we are here on a fan-led Thursday. Happy to be back here with you, Jared. It is like I said, fan-led Thursday. So if you guys have questions, if you guys have topics, things that you want us to cover during the show, please throw it in the comment section. We will do our best to get to all of it. Obviously, this is a big weekend for the Michigan Wolverines taking on Michigan State in primetime in East Lansing. Jared, we were talking about this before we went live. We are trying to find a way to drum up excitement for this game. It's feeling a little bit stale. And as we go through this, I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because I think that there's certain factors as to why it feels that way. But we're going to talk about this Michigan State team and kind of where they stand. I don't know if you're a Michigan fan and you haven't been paying attention to the Michigan State Spartans. Boy, oh boy, is that a bad football team. They rank near the bottom in college football in a lot of critical statistical areas. And I just think what it sets up for if you're Michigan, yes, it's a rivalry game. Yes, it's on the road, but this needs to be a dominant win for the Michigan Wolverines. I don't really see any way around it, and it's probably the reason why they're 2 touchdown favorites going into this one, Jared.
Yeah, again, like I've said in the past, right? I'm in Lansing, so I get a lot of exposure to it. I got a lot of Spartan friends that are hurting and already looking towards basketball. Some have already told me that it is basketball season right now, which is football's over. Nobody cares about football anymore.
Well, if you watch this football team, football is over for them for sure.
For them, correct. Yeah, they got Aiden Childs, and I think it's tough because a few years ago when Aiden Childs came in with Jonathan Smith, they thought everything. This kid was, he was a high 4-star guy and he was going to be the savior. And then they got Nick Marsh a year ago, and he's a stud. I'll give him that, but. They just can't put the pieces together, and they just haven't had the recruiting classes, and recruiting matters. Even back back in the D'Antonio days when they were, beating us, unfortunately, they were getting 3-star guys and developing them. And I kept telling my buddies, hey, it's not going to last. You cannot consistently do this. You got a good run. You got a good crop of kids that turned into some pretty good ball players. But sure enough, what happened at the end, right? You can't consistently recruit in the low 20s. 30s, 50s. I don't even know where they're at right now. I mean, they're losing guys left and right. I think that linebacker's he's going to be at the game, but I think he's on Michigan's sideline. They're losing guys left and right, and it's just not sustainable. And it feels, you and I were talking about, it feels like Jonathan Smith is like the Walking Dead. It's inevitable, right?
He's just so gumpy. I'm sure he's a good guy. I'm sure he's a decent guy. I know nothing about him personally. All I can say is what I see, when he's on camera and the way he is on the side. It's just there's no juice there. There's no. Mark D'Antonio, I was going to wait till later in the show to get into this. I hated Mark D'Antonio. I absolutely hated Mark D'Antonio, but in some weird, sick, and twisted way, I loved what he did for the rivalry. He was such a fun guy to hate, and he absolutely hated Michigan. It wasn't manufactured. He didn't have to try to create sound bites. Everything that came out of him was just so natural, and it was hatred in its purest form. And he did make Michigan State competitive because they played with that chip on their shoulder, and it made the in-state rivalry fun. And I miss that. I wish Michigan State wasn't a shitty football team. I wish they had a head coach that I hated. But when I look at that program from top to bottom, it's almost I want to say borderline irrelevant, but they are as about irrelevant as it gets. I mean, they're one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. They won their first 3 games against nobody. They haven't won a single game in conference play. They are 0-4 in conference play. They've lost 4 consecutive games. There's no juice with that team, and I feel like that's why there's no juice with this rivalry. People are trying to manufacture it and talk about tunnels and previous incidents and things with Mel Tucker and things with Matt Weiss and all of this shit that you're trying to use to like make it interesting. But the reality is the game itself, man, this one should be pretty convincing in Michigan's favor. And I think that makes for a dangerous sort of, if you're Sharon Moore and you're Michigan, we've seen it this season, Jared, that like consistency can be an issue. Sometimes they play out of character. Sometimes they're doing things and you're like, what the hell's going on with that team? And if you get into that situation on the road against a Michigan State team that's really playing for nothing else other than trying to spoil your season and get a win over you, things can get sideways. I still don't think Michigan State has the ponies to do it, but I think that might be the only danger in this game is that Michigan State is so bad that they're playing with nothing to lose, and sometimes that can be dangerous.
Yeah, and you know, we have an old saying in the military, right? Complacency kills, and it's hard to not get complacent when you're going into a game that you're 2 touchdown, advantage favored, and you got advantages in almost every single position. I mean, I can't, other than I don't even know about wide receiver. I guess Nick Marsh is probably going to be the best wide receiver on both teams, but yeah, I
listen, Jared, did you ever hear this guy, by the way? CJ Frazier from the Facebook page says, Chris, you got to play some Spartan Dog. Best thing they ever had. I don't know how honest
I think I don't wonder if CJ is still if he's under an IV or how he's doing. He went to Colorado. I saw him on Facebook and climbed a summit 1 mile up a mountain. So I want to give him props. I've done it once. It's horrifying. I get
out of breath crawling up the stairs to get to my kids.
I passed out looking at the picture on his Facebook. But yeah, he props to you, CJ. That was pretty.
I guess props. He's out there mountain climbing. I know he's doing photography these days.
Well,
things are looking up for
the game
CJ
this weekend, so he might as well go do something else.
I guess not. But CJ says you got to play some Spartan Dog. Jared, are you familiar with this Spartan Dog phenomenon that popped off? What is it? 4 years ago or so? Are you aware of this song?
No, what is this? I knew they had a song with, I don't know who it was.
Listen, I can't play it now because I don't have the audio file, unfortunately. I'm not going to play it now, but I'm embarrassed to say that there was a point in time, like when I first heard it, I was like, is this cool? Is this like, there was a part of me that thought it might be good. It's a white guy rapping on Michigan State campus.
I mean, you lost me.
The title of the song is Spartan Dog, and I think he was hoping it was going to become an anthem for the football. Not surprisingly, it did not become an anthem.
It became an embarrassment.
And so we spent a lot of time wondering where that guy was at and what he was doing, and we would play the song. Maybe that'll be I'll bring it on Monday. I'll tell you what, CJ, I will bring Spartan Dog on Monday. We will all listen to it.
Get him on the show Monday and just see where he's at.
No, this guy you can't. He's too much of a loose cannon to bring him on podcast. He's dangerous, dude. Well, you can't trust white rappers. They are a dangerous breed. If you run into a guy who's still trying to make it in the rap career, some white guy, you stay away from that dude. That dude's a loose cannon. Not safe to be around those guys. We listen. We're the weeds here. Sorry, Michigan State. I did see some questions come in. It's good to see everybody in here. Tony Petrosky, good to see you. Rico, good to see you as well. I'm glad you got the notification that the show is back on. We are going to get into some of the Michigan State talk. But before we do that, guys, something really important, and I've mentioned it on the show a couple of times now. We are, Jared and I are sort of running this thing. Winged Helmet Media has gone independent now. We're working independently. There is no partnership or any sort of other publication that we're affiliated with. And I'm super, super happy about that because that means we get to do things the way we want to do it the right way. Jared got a little peek behind the curtain into what it means to be part of the sports media in our former partnership. And it was like, you know what? It's time, man. The game is evolving. Things are changing in sports media. And so this felt like, a natural progression for what we should do. But in doing so, it's critical that we bring on sponsors, and not just any sponsors, but sponsors that we believe in for causes and things that we believe in. And Jared brought something to the table that I think is incredibly cool with VFW National Home. He's going to give you a little bit of insight about that. They are our first sponsor, and then we're going to run a commercial, and then we're going to come back, talk Michigan State. So Jared, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, so the VFW National Home is located in Eaton Rapids, Michigan. It's about 15 minutes south of the capital. They've been around for 100 years, and it's a campus with about 80 acres of just a little community, 43 single-family homes where we take veterans and their families, put them in homes, house them, utilities, all for free. Set goals for them so that they can take, the 3 to 5 years that we allow them to live there to get back on their feet. Just an incredible opportunity for veterans in Michigan. It's the only such facility in the entire nation, and it's right here in Michigan. And it just does a lot of great work. So we're hoping, with this sponsorship, I work there now. I'm the director of veteran services. So we're hoping with this sponsorship that we can reach out to the Winged Helmet fans and the Michigan fans to support. Every dollar helps go towards a veteran. Or if we have any veterans that are in the community, in the audience that need help, feel free to click the link that Chris is going to put on the Winged Helmet page, and we will certainly help you. But yeah, just an amazing group of people just helping veterans and some great success stories, right? We get people that you'll see on the commercial, some success stories, but some of the other things, we're combating homelessness. And in the 100 years, I just found this out today. This is astounding. In the 100 years that we've been there, for every veteran that has come through our program, and one of the biggest issues veterans have is suicide. Everybody knows it. We have 0 suicides. So everybody that's gone through that program has been successful, gotten to where they need to be. And it's just an amazing opportunity. So props to you, Chris, for partnering with us. And we appreciate everybody's support.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like we've talked about before, the things that we've done together, you and I, as, just part of the Army National Guard. I mean, getting to be around people like that and seeing what they do and how they serve the country, it's just an awesome thing to be able to be a part of. And so any way that we can utilize our platform to be able to help, individuals, veterans trying to get back on their feet, I think is a wonderful thing. We're going to run this commercial from VFW National Home. Like Jared said, we will have more information about this as they are now a sponsor moving forward, but we'll run the commercial now. And then when we get back into it, we will talk Michigan State this weekend.
Next story takes us to Eaton Rapids, Michigan.
Eaton Rapids is the site of the Veterans of Foreign Wars home. The home has been in existence since 1925 and is a fully equipped community.
When I was 10 years old, we had some unfortunate things happen in my family and we ended up being homeless. My mother's friend told her about a place called the VFW National Home. It was the first time that I had real stability in my childhood.
Very few people outside of the state of Michigan understand that this is a place where veterans from all over the United States can go and get help that they need.
The military does a great job of creating soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen. What they don't do is they don't create good veterans. That's the VFW National Home's job. That's what we do.
Awesome. Really appreciate that from VFW National Home. Like I said, keep an eye out because we're going to be sharing more information about them, but they are our first sponsor. Jared, kudos to you for bringing them on. Yeah. Happy to have that as a first sponsor. It's an incredible cause. Let's get into Michigan State this weekend. And I'm going to reset the deck here just before we get into the conversation. As I said to open the show, Michigan State 0-4 in conference play, 3-4 overall. Their only wins are against Western Michigan, Boston College, and Youngstown State, and then 4 consecutive losses to USC, Nebraska, UCLA, and Indiana. The Michigan Wolverines, of course, 5-2 overall, coming off of a pivotal win against Washington last weekend. They looked real good. They looked dominant. This is what you expect to see from the Michigan Wolverines on both sides of the ball. I get that they're a work in progress, but I do think what we saw from them last weekend is kind of what you should expect from them given where they are in their progression. Michigan enters this game as a 2-touchdown favorite. It is on the road in prime time, and the Wolverines are looking for their 4th straight win in the rivalry series against Michigan State. The last time Michigan won 4 consecutive games in the series was during a 6-game winning streak from 2002 to 2007. Jared, I was a little bit surprised when I heard that. Are you surprised it's been this long since Michigan's reeled off or has the opportunity to reel off 4 consecutive wins?
No, so I unfortunately I was there for the downfall there. That was right after the Mike Hart comment, right? And Michigan kind of went the other way with their coaching and tried to change the whole culture of Michigan football. I mean, what Rich Rod and the players were just too small to play Big Ten. And you remember, I mean, everybody whipped our ass then. It wasn't just Michigan State. I mean, that was a dark time, and I just so happened to live in Lansing, and it was horrifying. But no, I'm not surprised. They had some good runs, and then in the Harbaugh era, it just games like this, right, where we were supposed to beat them and we didn't, and so it does make you worried a little bit about this weekend, because it is a rivalry, and God, you never know what can happen in that high school stadium that they call a college football stadium. But I just. Yeah,
you are such a Michigan State hater. I mean, you're the perfect Michigan fan, right? You hate little brother, and it's interesting that you bring it up, because yes, during the Harbaugh era, there were those games where Michigan goes in the favorite, and then things just get a little bit weird. Things get sideways. In fact, the last 10 games between Michigan and Michigan State, going all the way back to 2015, Michigan State has won 4 of the last 10 meetings. But here's what's interesting, Jared. All 4 of those meetings, none of them occurred. None of them happened. I guess let me rephrase that. Michigan State didn't win any of those games by more than 4 points. So in 2015, it was a 27-23 win. In 2017, it was a 14-10 win. In 2020, it was 27-24. And then in 2021, obviously the Kenneth Walker year, the year that Michigan won the Big Ten, started that incredible run that season, 37-33. So even when Michigan State has been able to win the game in this rivalry, it's always been super tight. It's always been super close. And I think that, when you look at the way that this thing is set up, man, the numbers, we talked about that, and I didn't really get into them specifically at the beginning of the show, but when you look at where Michigan State is in the national rankings, it's bad, right? Total offense, Michigan State is ranked 106th in the nation. In total offense, we're talking 133 teams here that are ranked. Michigan State 106 in total offense. Total defense, Michigan State's ranked 88th. I mean, there's nothing that they do well, man. Passing offense, they're ranked 86th in the nation. They average 213 yards per game. Pass defense for Michigan State is even worse. They're 109th in the nation. They're giving up 251 yards per game. Rush offense for Michigan State, not very good. 106 in the nation. They're averaging 123 yards per game. Their rush defense is okay, right? They're almost top 50. They're 52 in the nation. They're giving up 131 yards per game. And then scoring defense for Michigan State. Think about this. They're 119th in the nation. They're giving up 32 points a game on that Michigan State defense. I mean, dude, like 106, 109th, 119th. You go down the list. Michigan State, statistically, one of the worst teams in college football. You look at Michigan as a 2-touchdown favorite on the road. I guess what is your confidence level going into this one this weekend, given that it is a rivalry, but also Michigan State is just a bad football team?
Well, I mean, I'm confident, right? I think we're going to win. But of all those things that you said, there is one thing that's a recipe for an upset in a game like this, beside the fact that you have it's a rivalry game, and it's red zone inefficiency. And Michigan is ranked 81st in red zone efficiency. They have had some huge mistakes in the last few weeks with, and so I brought some notes to the table, because I was trying to figure out, like, how could we screw this game up, right? Like, I wanted to make sure. And so talking about in the red zone, right? So they produced 13 points in those 2 big games, right? Bryce Underwood took a sack against USC to get him out of field goal range. He's got 2 interceptions, none in the red zone, but a couple of them kept him out. So they have 15 touchdowns, 5 field goals, and 24 red zone trips. They've come up empty 4 times. Even last week they were stopped on 4th and 2, which they won that game. So I don't hate it too much. They had multiple red zone possessions against Oklahoma. They got nothing. 2 possessions last week inside the 40, nothing. That was the Zavada missed field goal, and Samaj dropping that 4th and 1. So they've had some red zone issues, right? Like, and that's how you lose a game like this. You get in the red zone and you don't score. And so to me, that's what I'm going to be watching is when they get in that red zone, do they score? And do they score touchdowns? Another way you lose is you get in the red zone, you just kick field goals all day. Field goals don't win games like this. And I'm sorry, they don't. And I still think they're going to win. I just don't see a situation where State comes out with enough. They just don't have enough talent. Unfortunately, they don't have enough talent. It feels like that way. I mean, they are certainly underperforming. But like, look, I mean, you talk about being able to lean on field goals in the red zone. Like, even field goals don't feel like a sure thing these days. And I don't know what the weather forecast is on Saturday night, but I know that, look,
if you live in Michigan, you know damn well that fall has set in. It is getting chilly out. I'm sleeping with the window open at night. My wife is pissed off that we wake up in the middle of the night and it is a tundra. And she puts up with me, right? Hey, I smoothed things over after the last podcast. And now here I am talking shit again. Gonna have to dig myself out. But I mean, I don't know. Is it going to be windy? Is it going to be, I would imagine it's going to be a little bit chilly on Saturday night. But Dominic Zavada, Dominic Zavada is a guy that you used to be able to rely on for pretty much everything, like Mr. Automatic. And for some odd reason, I don't remember what the number is. Is it 9 of 13 or 9 of 14?
9 of 14.
Whatever he is on the season, man. It's just like, it feels a little bit shaky, and you hope you don't get into a situation where you're going to absolutely need field goals against this Michigan State team, because it should not come to that on Saturday night. But in the event that it does, Jared, and you got to put that on Zavada's leg, that's when things are going to feel a little bit shaky, and you just hope that he can shake off the cobwebs or whatever it is that's going on. Let's do this before we sort of get into kind of our prediction, how we think this game is going to go out, because I did see some questions come through. Yeah. I'm back at 613 in the line of questions. And so anything that's come recently, I haven't seen it. I want to make sure I got to Matt Kirby's question first because he asked it first. But if you do have a question or comment or something you want us to tackle, go ahead and throw it in the comments and we'll do our best to get to it. Matt Kirby from the Facebook page. By the way, love Matt Kirby. I see him at the big house often. I mean, just this dude's like 6'6". What are you, Matt? You're like 6'6", 6'7", just this tall, towering, Michigan super fan. He's everywhere. He's at the Rose Bowl. He's at the big house. I think he lives out in California. He's one of those guys. I don't know how he does it. How do you afford to travel across the country and just watch Michigan football every weekend? I'm not sure how he does it, but he's got a great question for us. He says, do you think Jordan Marshall's running style, being a bruiser, works better with our offensive line? Jared, that's an interesting question. We've talked about Michigan's offensive line throughout the season, how it is a work in progress. It's not the dominant type of offensive line that we were used to having in the Jim Harbaugh era. I'll ask you, do you think after what you saw last weekend from Jordan Marshall that his running style might even be a better fit for this current offensive line?
No. I mean, they're both great.
Phrase it way where it might be interesting, but I think we're settling.
Yeah, I'm not going to say no and say back to you, Chris. No, I don't think it is. I think they both have their unique style. Now, I think his running, we talked about last week, I think his running style fires up the offensive line, right? When they look up, like I said, and they see him just crushing dudes, that gets them fired up. But I also don't believe that it doesn't fit, right? You know what I mean? He just doesn't have that. And I saw it in some games that when he gets into that second level of the defense, maybe even past that and into the secondary, at that point, Justice Haynes, you believe that he's going to make somebody miss and he's going to take it to the house, right? Like, I don't know how many times this year Justice Haynes has busted into the secondary and got caught, right? It's over pretty much at that point. Marshall, it's almost like he gets out there and he's like, where's somebody? I'm going to hit him. You can run away from him, bro. You don't have to hit the safety. But no, I don't think either one of them fit. I think they just both have a different style. I think that Marshall is a classic Michigan guy, right? Like I'm going to 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but really it's going to be 9 because he's never going to stop moving his legs. But Haynes has just got that vision and that explosive ability. And I think you're going to see more balance between the two of them. If we even see Haynes, we don't know yet. Have you heard if he's good? Or
I've seen,
I think they just weed him in, right? Like a little bit. If they need him, if they don't, they sit him down. That's what I think with him. But
yeah, I have seen there's some hope that he might be, but you know how Michigan is with this stuff. Like they play it close to the vest. Like they're not really going to, like he's going to be questionable once again on the injury report. And then we'll see if he plays him. But like we talked about during the last show, I think if he's not 100%, if he's not ready to go, you don't play him and you roll with Marshall, because I think Marshall has proven that he's the type of guy who can, he can also lead this offense. He's a bruiser. And to Matt Kirby's point, like, it seems to work well with the offensive line. And we've talked about that when you're an offensive lineman and you see your running back just bulldozing over guys, like that can help create momentum, that can help create confidence. And that's something that I think is going to work well for this offense against Michigan State on Saturday night. So to answer your question, Matt Kirby, like, I don't know that Marshall's running style of being a bruiser is better with the offensive line, but I certainly think it's a nice combination to pair along with Justice Haynes. When you do, it's such a cliche to say thunder and lightning, but they really are that. They are two very different types of running backs, where Justice Haynes is a home run waiting to happen, and Jordan Marshall is just going to lower his shoulder and he's going to put people in the dirt. And I think when you can offer that as an offense and give a defense something to really have to think about down after down, that can wear on you quite a bit. And so I think Michigan will be just fine if they got to lean entirely on Jordan Marshall for that reason. But man, oh man, if you can get Justice Haynes back in the lineup, I just think this thing could get ugly really quick.
Yeah, break their backs.
Yeah. Before we move on to one of the next questions here, I did get a notification. I think the stream has dropped on Facebook. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. So if I don't know if you came over from Facebook and you're on the YouTube page, I appreciate it. There's really nothing. Unfortunately, this is one of the challenges of doing a live show is like I get a notification that for some odd reason we dropped on Facebook, and it's like I see the numbers going down. It's like, I don't know what to do, guys. I'm just a regular guy, Jared. I don't know what the hell to do. I get some sort of exclamation point saying we dropped a feed, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
IT guys would tell you to just turn it off, turn it back on, but I don't know. That's as far as I go with that.
Unfortunately, I can't do that. The new life from is that an Indiana championship ring in that picture right there? What is that?
Yeah, what are we doing? Well,
I don't know what is. But I like this. I like this person. They're in the comments frequently, and they've always got kind things to say. The new life from the YouTube page says, do you guys think Childs and Marsh will transfer at the end of this season? Talking about two of Michigan State's top prospects. Jared, we were talking a little bit about that before we clicked live. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you even care if these guys transfer? But, do you think overall they might?
Do I care?
Do you care? Does it even matter?
I think Jonathan Smith, despite the fact that he's a nice guy that rinses out his recyclables before he puts them away, I think he's going to get fired, right? And I think at that point, Childs will probably go. He's taken a lot of heat from fans, and that affects the young man. So I think he'll go. And Marsh, I mean, I think he has to. What's he staying for? Like, the kid wants to play in the NFL. He's an NFL talent. Do I think he'll come to Michigan? I probably not. Right. Like, I think he's got a little bit of loyalty, to not go to Michigan, but I think he'll leave too. Yeah. I think anybody that's got any ambitions of going to the NFL from that team, when that coach goes, they're going to go. It's free. It's a free transfer, right? They got 30 days. I mean, if they could transfer now if they fire him in the season, so yeah, I think they'll both be gone if the coach gets fired. And I don't see a situation where they keep the coach. So, yeah,
he's a tough guy, man. And like I was talking about with Mark D'Antonio, D'Antonio had that thing where, like, you could tell he understood Michigan State. He understood East Lansing. He understood the rivalry with Michigan. Like, he just got it, and he made everything better. There was way more competitiveness, way more of an edge. And I just don't see anything with Jonathan Smith that, like, gives you the impression that this guy has an edge or a nasty side or what. He's like your friendly old uncle that shows up to Thanksgiving and you're like, Uncle Jonathan, good to see you.
Completely innocuous. So let me ask you a weird question. It's a weird question. I think we're okay to, anyways. Picture Mark D'Antonio. Can you picture him? Yeah. Picture Jonathan Smith. I don't know what the dude looks like right off the top of my head. Like, really? I can't really. He's just a guy in the background, right? Like, he's like you said, he's just that uncle he's there, but what is he really my uncle? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. He's not memorable. He's not in a rivalry like this. When you're going against a team that's 90 miles down the street that is Michigan, you've got to be memorable. You got to have some kind of impact. Mel Tucker, for all the nonsense, he had an impact at some point. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, really bad impact at the end there. But you got to be brash. You got to do something. I mean, you got one of the biggest programs in college football history 90 miles down the road. You can't just sit in your office and cold call recruits. I don't know what the hell he's doing over there. Well,
I mean, I think Michigan State's going to be up for this game as much as they possibly can be. But there's no doubt that when you have like a general leading the way, like a Mark D'Antonio type figure, an Urban Meyer type guy, a Nick Saban type guy, like guys that just have that, a Kurt Signetti type guy who's like a lunatic out of his mind and just like only thinks about winning football games and dominating. Like, when you have guys like that leading the program, that filters on and carries down to the players. And unfortunately, I just don't see Jonathan Smith as being that type of guy. Nope. I'll be the first to admit, I don't spend a lot of time watching Michigan State football, but when I do watch Michigan State football and when I watch Jonathan Smith, like at his press conferences or when I see him on the sideline, I just see a guy that doesn't really have any juice. And what I see from him looks like what you see from Michigan State. Like, sure, they're going to be able to go beat up on Youngstown State and some of these lower level schools, but you
college was close, right? I think that went
right?
to overtime. Multiple.
But you get into Big Ten play and you start playing against like serious football teams, and I'm throwing UCLA, which, by the way, you know, they're on a nice little winning streak, but Michigan State just looks like a shell of what it was under Mark D'Antonio, and I think that's why Michigan State fans are frustrated and upset. And, you know, in some weird, sick and twisted way, I hope they get it figured out, because this game and this rivalry is a lot more fun when Michigan State has a decent football team. And unfortunately, it seems like they're quite a ways away from being a decent football team, which I go back to. I think that makes this one dangerous, because sometimes shitty teams have a way of putting together really good performances for at least one night a year. And it feels like if Michigan State's going to find a way to do it, it would have to be this weekend for them. Otherwise, you know, what does it matter if you do it moving forward? Like, they can make their season this weekend.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like I said, I got surrounded by Spartans fans around here, and a lot of them are even hoping that it's an ass whipping so that the coach gets fired. Like they want him gone, and then they're willing to take that ass whipping to get him gone. And I mean, I feel bad for some of them, honestly.
Yeah. And you know, this is this is another part of this question here about Childs and Marsh possibly entering the transfer portal after the season. Jared, you and I talked about this before we went live, but look, do I think they will? I don't know. Is it possible they will? Sure. I mean, is it even, you know, maybe likely that they could? I don't know. All I know is that this is part of the reason why I think there's not as much juice over this one. Like, Jonathan Smith feels like an implant to Michigan State. Aiden Childs is not like a Michigan State guy. Marsh is not like, there just isn't a lot of history there. And we don't even know that these guys are going to be here next year if they lose this game. And so there's so much shuffling with these players and there's so much unknown. And it just feels like you're just plugging pieces in from year to year, and different guys are moving different places, and there is no consistency. And it really is where college football is in this era, where the transfer portal is a big deal. NIL is a big deal. You try to fall in love with your roster, but a lot of your roster is bought and paid for, and you're hoping it's going to be there next year, but you're constantly cycling out guys. Look at the Michigan basketball team right now. How many of those guys are going to suit up and be on the floor this year were with the basketball program last year? 2 of them?
They brought in 5 guys, right? They brought in 5 this year, because the year before they brought in 7. And then they brought some freshmen, and it's a whole
right. So it's just a team full of transfers, and I feel like, yeah, you're going to root for them. You want them to win. You want them to succeed, but like, you just don't have the
connection.
Yeah, like the connection to those players. So when it comes to Childs and Marsh, I feel the same way. Like, how long has it been since Michigan State's made a bowl game? They haven't done it in 3 years? Michigan State is once again not on track to make a bowl game. So I don't know. If you're Jonathan Smith, are you painting a picture of success to come? I just don't see anything with this program that indicates, hey guys, we're about to turn a corner here. And maybe I'm missing it, but what they put on the field doesn't look good. I don't think they're doing really well from an NIL standpoint, and I don't think Jonathan Smith is it. And so, yeah, I would assume that you're probably going to see a lot of Michigan State guys enter the transfer portal after the season, the same way you're seeing former commits to Michigan State saying, you know what they sold me kind of sounded good, but I'm seeing what's taking place this fall. And I don't think that that's something I want to be a part of.
No, 100%. You know, we talked about that 4-star linebacker, right? Again, decent kid. I think he's a top 200 type, talent, which is good for a recruit. Committed to Michigan State, all in, all over his Instagram. Michigan comes calling. Instagram goes down. He's committed, but all of a sudden all of his Michigan State stuff really isn't there. He's taking all these visits to Michigan, Georgia, right? Like, even when they get one, right? They got in early on this kid and he started to rise up the ranks, and then they're going to lose him, and it's because you're right. Well, I'm not going there. Like, I mean, they play primetime games when they play other teams, and then they get, they get whipped, and nobody wants to go to that. And it's a mess. And the coaching thing in flux, we dealt with that when Harbaugh flirted with the NFL every year, right?
Yeah.
And we had a great coach and a great program at the time, but every time he flirted with the NFL, recruits are like, yeah, I don't know who you don't go to a job. You don't know who the boss is, or you're not sure who the boss is going to be, So Yeah, this year's it's tough, and unfortunately, because I'm with you, I want them to be good. I want it to be a good game, right? But unfortunately, I think they're gonna fire their coach, and it's gonna set them back again. Back to. I mean, they're gonna have to make a splash. We're talking too much about Michigan State right now.
Yeah, but how can you really make a big splash in East Lansing? I mean, who wants to go
Franklin?
there? Well,
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
honestly,
they're gonna make a splash. Like, they got to do something.
That might be the biggest splash I think Michigan State could get. I just don't view it, and maybe I'm wrong. Like, do you view Michigan State as like a destination type program where, like, if you're a major coach, you're looking at East Lansing, you're thinking, I can win some games up there. Like, I don't think you're gonna get even a James Franklin level type guy.
And I hate to say it, it's the Izzo effect, right? Like, he's
right.
Izzo is the man there, right? Izzo is the man in this town, like, period. And it, like I said, they're already moving on to basketball. Like,
right,
it's over. They don't even care. I mean, I got free tickets through a veteran organization, and I'm 18 rows up from the sideline. That means that some Michigan State season ticket holder gave 4 tickets to this organization, doesn't even care, doesn't even want to go.
Stay warm, watch it on TV. It's going to be an ass whooping anyway, and you can save your money.
Instead, he's got 3 Michigan. We got a Sparty snuck in there. He's gonna have 3 Michigan people sitting in a seat. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think a lot of that's gonna happen, man. I think a lot of Spartans are offloading their tickets, and you alluded to it earlier
at Spartan Stadium. I don't know.
Quite possibly. I think that come fourth quarter, that stadium's going to look. There's going to be a lot of maize in that stadium, and I think that's how it's going to go. I think the same way it went last time. So it would have been was it 2023? My God, that feels like forever ago. Yeah, 2023, because 2024 was last year. 2023 is when they went in and beat the shit out of them 49-0, right on the heels of that Connor Stallions thing. And they're like, oh no, we're going to have to huddle up now. We can't send signals in. And you still got your ass whooped. And so I think it's going to be more of the same. When we get to our score predictions, I'll give you a better idea of where I think this is going to go. Matt Kirby came in with another question from the Facebook page. This is really pissing me off, by the way, the fact that we lost our Facebook stream.
Yeah.
This is going to have to get figured out here. But Matt Kirby from the Facebook page said, how do you think our defensive line should play? I don't think we want to blast upfield. Jared, we've talked about the Michigan defense before in terms of how aggressive they are. Wink Martindale obviously calling the plays there. Based on what you've seen from Michigan State and I guess what they do or do not do offensively, I mean, how do you think the defensive line should play this one? Overall, what's your mentality if you're Wink Martindale going into this? Are you trying to be overly aggressive and put pressure on Aiden Childs, or are you setting back and just sort of letting your team do what it can do defensively, but not trying to be overly aggressive and giving up maybe too many big plays or too many opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to I call it safe pressure, right? I think that Matt nailed it, right? I don't want to blast upfield because one thing Childs can do is he can run. And so you don't want your guys losing edge contain. You still have Jayshawn Barham still new to the edge. And I think you mentioned it last week. He gets a little excited sometimes and loses that edge. And that quarterback pops out or the running back pops out and it becomes a big play. The other thing is if you can get Childs to move his feet, I've had to watch him for the 2-3 years he's been there, right? Because at Michigan State right here. But if you can get him to move his feet and get out of the pocket, he will put the ball in some bad places, and he's been notorious for throwing interceptions. So I think that they want to collapse that pocket, move the pocket, but also, not lose that contain because he can run. And we all know for some reason, unfortunately, Michigan, those running quarterbacks can get to us, right? Mateer was just, Childs Mateer, not the same, but if you open that lane, he'll run,
Yeah, he's an athlete. Yeah, he's an athlete. He can hurt you with his legs. There's no question about it. And I agree. I mean, you want to give pressure, but you don't want to do it too much. You don't want to be overly aggressive as a defense and then put your secondary in a compromised position. Because I do think if there is a way that Michigan could potentially lose this game, in addition to like turning the ball over, I think it's just giving up big plays to Aiden Childs when like it should have been an interception. Or if you're Jair Hill and you get a pick six in your hands and it sort of ricochets off and there's a catch and it goes the other way sort of thing. Like there's going to have to be some freak plays in order to put this in Michigan State's favor. And we've seen those before. I don't know where you were 2015, but I remember exactly where I was 2015, down on my knees in front of the TV. I turned to my wife and I said, all he's got to do is get the kickoff and we win the game. And guess what happened? Yep. They snapped the ball and it's just no. And all hell broke loose. And so there could be an opportunity for Michigan State to win this game, but I think it's going to shit like that is going to have to happen. I mean, if they just play this thing straight and Michigan can avoid costing.
Well, and that's the other thing too, right? So if you let Childs get out and you got Brandon Hillman back there who just likes to headhunt and crush people, right? And he sees the quarterback starting to run and he's supposed to be over the top or underneath on Marsh or something. And he starts coming up and now you got Marsh running free and Childs hasn't crossed that line of scrimmage. I mean, they got to have, gap integrity on the line, and they got to have, integrity in the secondary on coverage. Like you can't just come running up because he'll go over the top to Marsh. And I don't think that Marsh against any of our secondary, he's got the advantage. I mean, the kid is, I don't know if you ever watched that kid play live. I watched him play in high school against Bryce. They called him Megatron Jr. and he was a monster. No joke.
I went to see, I went up to like, Michigan or Jim Harbaugh went up for like a Ferris State. It was like a showcase camp or it was a football camp. And this one must have been, I don't know. Was this like summer 2021 or summer 2020? I can't remember exactly when it was, but Nick Marsh was there. And I didn't know who the hell he was. I was sitting in the stands and I was just watching guys go through these wide receiver drills. And it took about 2 seconds before I locked on him. And I was like, who the hell is that guy? Like he just looked like he was built different from everybody else. And obviously I was like, well, I hope Michigan goes after this kid. And obviously it didn't go that way. And he ends up in East Lansing. But certainly, I mean, he's a talent. And yeah, if you let him get loose, or to Rick's point from the YouTube page, he says, confident level is very high. But my issue is Michigan State runs a ton of screens and quarterback design runs, the two things that Michigan team struggles with. If we can pipe down on that, we can win by a lot. Yes. And I think, Rick, that's where we're going to find out, like when you're heavily favored and you're going up against an opponent that struggles in a lot of areas, but can do some things right. For Michigan, it's going to come down to discipline. And really, overall, it's going to come down to consistency. We saw the way the Michigan defense can clamp down at times this season. We saw it last weekend against Washington. They gave up -8 yards in the fourth quarter. They clamped down. So we know that this team can play disciplined football. We know that defensively they can play with discipline, but you're right. Can you keep a cool head against an in-state rival where you're really trying to make a statement in their building? Can you play sound fundamental football? And I think if you can do that, Michigan's going to be just fine. It's going to take a lot more than getting a couple screens off to beat this Michigan Wolverines team for sure.
No, I agree with you.
Let's see if we can go through here.
Hey, Rick, good call there. Nailed everything that we were saying. Those are the things that make you afraid. Yeah. Missed tackle, and all of a sudden the dude's streaking down the sideline, and Chris is throwing man Moses all over and opening windows, and Chantel's mad, and it's all going to hell.
Work. I still see somebody talking about me leaving the window open in bed. So somebody said Facebook stream is messed up. YouTube stream works. Oh boy, yeah. I don't know what happened with that.
I grabbed the one here with New Life, right? New Life makes a good comment right here at 6:50.
Where is it? What time? 6:52.
Yep. Michigan also contained Williams versus Washington. No worries.
Okay, hold on. Let me get there. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any. Somebody says death spiral. Facebook went down. Facebook stream is gone.
Yeah, yep. The whole world was on fire, and you were just talking about leaving the windows open.
Oh my God! Yes, it was melting down.
Panicking, and you're
well, I saw the numbers get cut in half, and I'm like, did I say something that pissed people off? It was like half our audience just left. I'm like, I know I can ramble on.
Team Chantel, man, they're on team there. You know who they're rooting for. Damn.
I should bring her on, and we should just do like marriage counseling, like on the live podcast, and let the fans decide who's in the right. Hey,
I think you'd be on the couch, but whatever. Yeah.
Well,
bold strategy.
The fans will decide how it's handled. Where did that question come from? Where is it? 6:50.
It wasn't a question; it's a comment, and I would like to talk about it because
what time is it? What
New Life? 6:53.
6:53. I'm almost there. Let's see. 6:53.
Michigan also contained Williams versus Washington. No worries.
Damon Williams. Okay, yeah. Michigan also contained Damon Williams versus Washington. No worries. I mean, well, Aiden Childs is not Damon Williams. There's no question about that. Yeah, Jared. I mean, take that and run with it.
Well, I think there's a difference. Damon Williams, correct me if I'm wrong, is what 5'10"?
Yeah, he's tiny.
Right. Aiden Childs is all of 6'2", 6'3", 225. I think there's a little bit of a difference there. I don't really think you can compare the two of them. And I don't think it's going to be the same strategy. I don't believe that it will be the same strategy, but that's also that thing that we're talking about, right? That no worries. Like it's what makes you nervous, right? The no worries thing. Because this team, we were talking about it this week. I believe Pat McAfee was saying on College Game Day, right? Michigan is here, then they're here, then they're here. And that's kind of how they've been all year. And so we're here now. Are we going to stay there, or are they going to come out and expect to beat this team and lose their integrity? And you get caught up in a rivalry game and you see that quarterback and you just want to crush him. You lose your edge contain. He flips that screen out, something like that. So I wouldn't say no worries. There's always some worries. I hope they come out and they get ahead quick. They get ahead early. And they can be comfortable, you know what I mean? It's just like you said, that 23 team, 49-0, right? At no point would we even be having this conversation with that 23 team. I was never concerned that they were anything. I didn't see it 49-0. I'll be honest. I was at the game. I left at the end of the third quarter laughing all the way out, but I didn't see that. But I never was worried. I was never worried about anything, right? They came in, they were professional, they handled business, they did what they had to do. I just hope this team can do that and not let that. They're young, right? You got a young quarterback. He's going to get up against guys that he played against in high school. He wants to beat them. He wants to show he's the best guy on the field. Nick Marsh is getting a lot of presses. Maybe he's the best player in this game on either side. So hopefully Bryce doesn't come out and say, watch me throw an 80-yard pass, and hopefully they can stay disciplined, and you do what you got to do to get the win, because now it's about getting those wins to get to that final game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I hate that, like, the whole, I don't know. I hate that the whole vibe around this rivalry has become like dirty plays and personal fouls and that. Like, I just hate that that's become such a big narrative of these two getting together. And I don't know, maybe it's like me having like a boomer type mentality or attitude about it, but like, I would much rather be talking about two good football teams and what they're going to do between the lines. But instead, like, what did you think about Nick? Did you hear Nick Marsh's comment this week talking about the Michigan game? I've got it here in front of me. If you want me to
read it, I could paraphrase it, but read it out.
So Nick Marsh, for anybody that didn't hear, Jared was just talking about him, star wide receiver for the Michigan State Spartans. He was asked about, sort of what he expects from the Michigan Wolverines this weekend. And here's what he said. He said, really, knowing that we're playing the school down the road, the talk before we get down there to avoid any unnecessary commotion and stuff like that. So that part isn't really something that we're worried about, but just trying to avoid stuff like that. And then knowing that they're going to try to start something is enough fuel for us. Playing them is enough fuel for us. So according to Nick Marsh, there's a belief that Michigan is going to try to start something. Am I alone in that, or do you hate that that's become the vibe between Michigan State? I mean, you had people after the tunnel incident just talking about canceling the game altogether and just giving these two programs like a break away from each other. And I thought some of that stuff had started to go away. But then this week, and I've said this a million times, and I've said it on the show a number of times, I get that social media isn't a real place. But Jared, you and I spend a lot of time on social media, just given the nature of our job. And the discussion on social media, whether it's serious, sarcastic, joking, whatever, I have seen so much talk about violence on the field, violence in the stands, hurting other people. Like, it just has really turned me off to this game, to where it's like, am I interested in the outcome of the game? Yeah, but a lot of what's surrounding it, from the fans in particular, I just think is gross.
Yeah, I also think I read that a couple of times, right? Because I was trying to figure out what he was really saying. It's also a very political, non-bulletin board material, really. I mean, he kind of shades Michigan a little bit, but not enough that it's going to be up on the bulletin board. And what is Michigan State going to say? We're ranked 100th in everything, and we're coming to bust your ass. I mean, what are they going to say? I mean, there's nothing for that. And what's Michigan going to say? What? You know what I mean? Like, you're going down the street to pick on a fifth grader. You don't talk shit about it. You go down there and you beat that fifth grader up and you get out of there. I don't condone beating up fifth graders, but
we're talking about beating children all of a sudden on the podcast here.
I meant little brother. You know what I meant. But it's just like you and I talked before this. And the reason we were late is because we were trying to figure out what is this game? What's the State's got nothing left. I mean, we got something, right? But we're not the juggernaut. They're just, I don't see any primetime matchups. Like we said, the best player for Michigan-ish, maybe Bryce Underwood, right? Most talented. Best player for Michigan State, Nick Marsh. So they play on the same side of the ball. They're not going to match. There's just nothing there. You know what I mean? There's just, Devin Bush being the linebacker, and Michigan State had decent running backs back then. You wanted to see that, there was matchups. This one's just, I'm going to the game, and I'm gonna hang out and have a good time, and hopefully no Michigan State fans get crazy. But
I mean, you're a military guy. Like you're going to be fine no matter what you do. It's people like me that need to be concerned. It's people like me that need to be worried for my safety. I will be in the stadium though, taking photos, which I'm really excited to do, man. I haven't done that in like over a month, and so excited to get back to that. Brandon from the YouTube page, of course, because Facebook is still shut down for whatever reason. Brandon says, "I blame D'Antonio for this. He created that hatred propaganda that escalated it to a toxic state." Jared, how much do you subscribe to that like what we're seeing right now with the rivalry is Mark D'Antonio is to blame for sort of the heat being turned up and this thing turning ultimately toxic?
I think D'Antonio was perfect for the rivalry. I think he handled it perfectly, right? Mike Hart goes out there, calls you little brother after pulling out a win. I was at that game that they shouldn't have won. Mario Manningham, the game-winning touchdown. Hart comes out and says, "Oh, you're your brother and you beat him." And what's D'Antonio said? "Pride comes before the fall." Iconic. That was an iconic.
It was a great quote.
Great quote, right? And what did he do? He went out and backed it up.
Delivered.
They started beating our asses, and it was. And I look back on that like, God, I'm glad I went to that game because now we suck now, and Michigan State's beating us. But I don't think that was on D'Antonio. He wasn't even the coach anymore. It was Mel Tucker that when they lost control and they're being assholes. And come to find out, Mel Tucker's not that great of a person. So usually your football team kind of looks like the coach. Turns out the coach was a shitbag. Whatever.
Look, I mean, Mel Tucker, a shithead, and it seemed like a lot of players on Michigan State became shitheads. And now you're talking about Jonathan Smith coming off as like soft and gumpy. What does the Michigan State football team look like? Kind of soft and gumpy. You can push them around, right? They don't really do anything well. There's nothing that really stands out. There's nothing that's really memorable. And so, yeah, Brandon, look, I can see why, if you're a Michigan fan, why you would have a hatred for Mark D'Antonio and why you might even put some of this on him. But I can't get to a place where I'm angry at him for what he brought to the rivalry because I respect it so much. Was it vicious? Was it like, full on hatred for the University of Michigan, everything it stands for? Yes, that was Mark D'Antonio. But I think that at the base of it all, at the heart of it all, he was still a guy that was all about competition and all about doing things the right way. It didn't mean he didn't want things to get chippy. It didn't mean he wasn't going to give you incredible sound bites in the media when he was going back and forth with the reporters. But I can't get to a place where like I blame Mark D'Antonio for anything because I feel like he was so good for the rivalry with Michigan State. And that's just kind of how I'm always going to view him, as that type of guy.
Yep, I agree.
All right, let's see if we got something else here. For some odd reason, I pissed off my son. I'm not sure why I did that. Let's see here. I'm just, dude, the Facebook stream is down. My wife is angry. Now my son is pissed off. I might be sleeping in my car tonight at a rest stop. Melt from the YouTube page. He says, it seems like once Michigan takes the lead, play calls more to a clock management style. Would be nice to just keep playing for a larger lead before immediately switching to that style of play. Jared, how much do you subscribe to that like Michigan sort of takes its foot off the gas once it gets a comfortable lead, and then you're just sort of playing clock management at that point? A, do you think that's the case? And B, would you like to see something different against Michigan State where, you get a lead and you keep your foot on the gas and you run it up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the case. I mean, against Washington, it was 7-7 at the half. They ran off 17 points in the second half. They were still throwing the ball. Bryce threw 27 passes, 230 yards, so they didn't take the air out of the ball. They were still, tossing it up. Now, it seemed, I get what, is it Mel? I think I get what Mel's saying here, because it feels like that when Jordan Marshall's running the ball, right? Because it's just so methodical and just ground and pound. And when you have Haynes out there, you'll get a 2-yard, a 3-yard, a 12-yard, a 3-yard, a 15-yard, then a 70. And it seems like, Michigan's pouring it on him. It's the same play. It's just a different guy running the ball, right? Like Jordan Marshall just doesn't do those things. So it definitely does seem like more of a grinded out game when Marshall's in there. But I don't think that they're going into a clock management. But what Mel said, I want them to pour it on, get it over with, get the guys out, nobody gets hurt, and look to the next. That's what I want, right? I want clean win, no injuries, move on to the next game. That's really all I want out of this game. I don't want them to do anything crazy. You don't need to expose anything that that's not already been in the playbook. Just kind of go out and hopefully they can play a vanilla game and win it and move on.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I just realized I think I called this person Melt. Jared, thank you. It's Mel T.
Mel.
I think is probably more accurate. Mel T. Yeah. Like, let's go to Melt at the YouTube page.
Just lost a fan. There we go.
Yeah,
he has left the chat. Right.
I think I agree with you, Jared. I don't know that it's so much like taking your foot off the gas and going to the clock management type style. I just think that there's sometimes with this offense where they look like they can move the ball down the field at will, and it looks like you expect that to continue. But there are drives, 1, 2, or 3 drives back to back, where it's like the offense that you saw kind of goes away, and it's like, what happened? I don't understand. So there is a lack of consistency within this offense. But when they lean on their weapons, when you feed Jordan Marshall or Justice Haynes, and you push the ball down the field to Donovan McCulley or Andrew Marsh or even Zach Marshall or some of the, Deacon Tonelli, some of these other tight ends that are starting to step up, you can see what this offense is capable of. In terms of what I want to see this weekend, like, I want to see them get a comfortable lead, but I'm with you, Jared. Once you get up and the game is in hand, get your guys out, get your starters out, get your reserves in, and then, actually play clock management at this point, because the last thing you want to do is get guys that are, I'm not saying reserves aren't valuable to the team, but I mean, let's be real here. Like, there's a reason why, like, you want Justice Haynes to like get back healthy as soon as possible, because there's key guys on the team that you're going to need down the stretch. You don't want those guys on the field getting injured in a game that gets ugly, and you certainly don't want anybody getting into any sort of scuffle, because if this game does get out of hand and it is, a 3-touchdown game in the second half, that's when you really got to worry about the extracurricular shit, because at that point, you're not really playing for a win or a loss anymore. Now it's just about making a point against a team across from you that you hate, which, again, I think a lot of it's manufactured. But I still think we're going to see some bullshit this weekend between these two teams. I think we're going to see a couple of things pop off.
The refs will know too. The refs they come in.
They get it.
They got to know, like, hey, we're going to let you get away with a little bit of bullshit, but then we're going to tighten it up. Like, just
Corey tells me, do not be scared of East Lansing. Thank you, Corey. You know what?
Is he saying East Lansing or is he saying Chantel? Are we sure what he's talking about there? Because East Lansing, you're probably safe. Chantel, I would.
There's so many things for me to be scared of at the moment in my life. Brandon, let's see, Rico. I'm going to go through some of these real quick before we get to our score predictions. Kenzie from the YouTube page says, I work on the MSU campus every game day for them, and it's always a mess full of hatred. I mean, look, if you were in that fan base right now,
she's right.
You're going to be angry if you're a Michigan State person right now. There's just not a lot to be happy about. I know basketball's returning and you got Tom Izzo and that's all great. But if you're a Michigan State person and you love college football, you've got to be real frustrated about what's going on with your program and your team right now, because like I said earlier in the show, there is zero juice. And I think they're trying to manufacture it and get up for this rivalry. But again, when you got a bunch of people that transfer into the program and didn't grow up around it and don't really understand it and don't have that like in their DNA, it's hard to get up for it. Like, yeah, you're going to play hard and yeah, you want to win the football game, but there is something about two teams that have a history with guys on the roster that have a history, and it's just sort of in your DNA at that point. And I don't know that that's a part of this rivalry anymore. And I think that that's sad. And I think that that's part of the reason why there are some people that look at college football the way it is right now and college athletics overall, and they're like, you know what? It does feel different because the names change from year to year. I can't keep up with who's going where. And all of those things that used to make it special slowly but surely seem like they're just kind of fading away. And, you know, you've got investors coming in, private equity and expanded playoffs and new conferences, and things are moving around. And it just, look, man, we talked about it before we went live, Jared. Like, I think players should be making money, but like, dude, where this thing is headed, I don't know where it ends, and I don't know that it ends in a place where we all like what the product is. We're all just going to have to tolerate it. I'm not going to go off on that soapbox, but damn it, Jared, I miss the good old days. Just bring back the BCS, please. Take me back to the good old days where every single game was a playoff game. Week one, right? You didn't have to wait until December for an expanded playoff. Week one, the playoff started. Jared, you and I were talking about this. You lose one game during the season, your season's practically over.
Yep.
Gee, I wonder why the college football regular season was like the best of any sport in the world. It was because every game mattered. Even if you were going up against Central Michigan week 2, it was a big game because you couldn't afford to stub your toe. You couldn't afford to come up short. Every game mattered. And I get it. There's incentives and there's benefits to it, adding a playoff system and expanding that playoff so that other teams have an opportunity to compete. But what you're really doing is you're taking away from a regular season that used to be live or die every college football fall Saturday, and you don't really have that anymore.
Remember when we lost to Appalachian State? Why was that so heartbreaking? Because that team was talented. That team was that was going to be a national championship caliber team, and you lost to Appalachian State. That sucked in and of itself. But your season was over at that point. I mean, it was over. And then last year you had Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois, and it didn't matter. We'll just win the rest of them. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, you had Ohio State lose to Oregon, lose to Michigan at home as a 3-touchdown favorite, not even qualify. Forget losing the Big Ten championship. Didn't even qualify to be in the Big Ten championship game. They still go to the playoff, and then lo and behold, they end up winning a national championship, which doesn't really help the narrative I'm trying to push here, because it just shows like you can do 2-3 losses during the regular season, still have an opportunity to win a national championship. I just don't think it should be the case.
It does support you, because what you're saying is the regular season no longer matters. And they corroborated that last year by letting Ohio State in. Whether they won it or not, you backed up the theory that whatever, just get through it with a couple losses and you'll be fine. I don't know. I'm with you now. I called you a boomer, and now I'm yelling at kids.
Listen, that's what they took away from us. They took away from us the greatest regular season of any sport in the world. Like it's still fun, right? But it's not. You don't live or die by everything that happens. I mean, look at here we are.
We have losses. We're still.
I was going to say Michigan football is 5-2, and we're still sitting here talking about playoff hopes and the fact that Michigan can do X, Y, and Z and hopefully get into the playoff. And even I'll say this, even to just further my point. Even though Michigan still has a chance to make the college football playoff, which any Michigan fan wants them to make the college football playoff, you want the Wolverines to be in a national championship hunt. But I would rather go back to the other system and have Michigan just be completely out of it right now at 5-2, and then get through the rest of the season and then try to do better next year. Like even as somebody who wants them to make the playoff, like I would rather have the old system back. Michigan could benefit from the new system if it wins out, but I don't have to like it. I don't have to prefer it. I miss when the regular season meant as much as it did.
What that 13-10 loss last year against Ohio State, what amazing. I'll never forget that win. But what else would that have done? That would have completely knocked them out, right? 2 losses there, they would have been out. That would have made it even more beautiful. But instead they go on to win, and it kind of tarnishes that win for us. Like, we beat them, but they still got the natty. It sucks, And so right now we'd be talking about keeping Ohio State out of the playoff. We could go down there and beat them this year, or go to Ann Arbor. They're coming up here, beat them, and they could do the damn same thing again.
Yeah,
and it would suck to happen again. But they're a tough team, so
they are. And I mean, it seems like they're going to be a tough team to knock off. And we'll deal with that when we get to November. We got Michigan State this weekend. The beat writers, Rico from the YouTube page, says the beat writers are saying that Klein is expected to play. Okay, cool. I mean,
what if you're Sharon? What do you do with Klein if he's healthy?
Is he 100%? Is he 80%?
He's 100%. He's a full go.
You know what? I let him watch Zach Marshall and maybe Deacon Tonelli do some work, and then I see if that sparks something in him. And I give him some opportunities and reps during the game, but like we've talked about this a number of times, man. Marlon Klein came out of the gate week 1, and it looked like he was, you're talking about, man, how do you replace a guy like Colston Loveland? And all of a sudden you see Marlon Klein, and he's on Bruce Feldman's freak list 2 years in a row, and it's like it's finally his turn. And then I get it. I know he had an injury, and he's kind of battling some other injuries, but he just kind of fell off, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. Would love to see him come back, because honestly, him playing at the top of his game is only going to help this offense. But Zach Marshall came out and had like a career game last weekend. Yep. And when people make the most of their opportunity, they should be rewarded for it. Case in point, look at Andrew Marsh, who started as a supplemental guy in the wide receiver rotation, and heading into week 8, he's the guy. He's wide receiver 1, and he did that by his production. He did it by earning it. He did it by taking reps away from guys who, quite frankly, couldn't hang on to the ball and couldn't make the most of their opportunity. And if there's one thing that I would praise Sharon Moore for, I mean, there's a number of things you can, give him some credit for, but he will rotate guys. He will go through the roster, and he will find guys that can make plays if the guys who are currently in those roles aren't doing it. And I think that Andrew Marsh is a great example of that. But Zach Marshall is a guy who, if you're down Marlon Klein, it's like 5 weeks ago, that would have sucked. But now it's like you look at a guy like Zach Marshall, and it's okay. I think we're going to be fine, and that's a good place to be for this offense. Let's see here. Did I miss anything? I see a lot of right on. I see a lot of comments.
Tony asked us about the Ohio State game, if we're coming to that game.
Yes. We'll certainly be at the game. I'll be taking photos for that game. I'm pretty sure Jared wants to be there. You're going to be there in some capacity.
I'm going to start teasing it right now, Chris. I think we got some cool stuff going on that week for you guys.
True.
So make sure you pay attention. We got some real cool stuff planned for the podcast for that game.
I would say some pretty unique content, something that's going to be interesting for the fans.
The podcast has ever done what we're going to do that week.
Probably not. No, and it's pretty much in line with some of the other. Yeah, pretty much some of the things we've done before that are kind of just, you don't see a lot of people doing it. It's a really cool opportunity. I appreciate Jared setting it up. So yeah, the week of the Ohio State game for sure, we're going to have some cool things content wise. Rico from the YouTube page, he says, who do we blame for Chris not doing live streams for half the season and ghosting the Winged Helmet audience like cheap whores? My goodness. You can only blame me. You can only blame me. Look, I will say this. A lot of people were pushing me to bring the live streams back, and I just really wasn't at a place where I was ready to do it. Jared was one of those guys. He's like, you got to get the live back. And to be honest, every time I would walk into Michigan Stadium, like when I get there in the morning, I like to take a couple of laps around before the game starts. And there are people in the stands that would come to me and say like, hey, when's the show going to come back? When's the show going to come back? Jared, you and I were leaving the stadium and I had a gentleman come up to me and ask me like, hey, when is the show going to come back? And there were a lot of people that were asking for it. And so it was always on my mind and something that I wanted to bring back, but I just had to wait until until I was in a place where I felt like I could do it. And I feel like we're there now. So here we are. So I guess, Rico, to answer your question, it's me. Don't put the blame on Jared. Don't put it on my wife or my kids.
I was never even on the podcast. How do you put it on me?
Well, because you're here now. So if I don't want to blame myself, there's only one other guy here.
I'll accept none of the blame.
Oh boy. Let's see. Let's go through the rest of these. Not really seeing any questions here.
I think the fans are
ready for predictions. All right, let's get to it.
Put your predictions in the comments. Put your predictions in the comments, and then we'll
throw your score predictions in the comments just so that we can track them. And look, man, if you're really good at what you do, I was just going to make a gambling joke, but I think on a day like today, we shouldn't be making gambling jokes. I asked Jared, by the way, before we went live, if he feels partially responsible for what happened to Mr. Big Shot today, Chauncey Billups, and a couple other NBA guys getting caught up in like some sort of gambling scandal. I heard a little bit about it. But Jared, as a degenerate, habitual gambler, I feel like in some way you contributed to what happened today. You have played some small role in gambling, essentially ruining sports. And I'm just wondering, do you feel that?
No, I gamble legally. The FBI didn't come to my door. What I don't understand is somebody like Chauncey Billups getting caught up in an illegal gambling scheme. Is he playing high-stakes poker in his basement? We don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? So I'm going to defend my fellow degenerate. It's probably just
all you gamblers just stick together through thick and thin. I don't know, man. It sounded pretty elaborate. They were talking about like poker tables that had like X-ray vision that could like scan cards and shit. It sounded pretty. And oh, by the way, also being linked up with like the Italian mafia out of New York or some shit like that.
Who do you think runs these games? Of course you got to hook up with the mafia.
I don't know. I'm not in your world. I don't know how the nitty gritty of that whole underbelly of society works.
It's a nefarious world.
I'll take your word.
You're talking about James Bond.
I will take your word for it. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to ask you one question, and then we're going to get into our score prediction. Jared, we talked about it throughout the show. Things that have to happen, things that absolutely can't happen. I'm just going to ask you to fill in the blank here. Jared, Michigan State as a 2-touchdown underdog. Michigan State wins this football game if what? Fill in the blank.
Yep. If Michigan loses the turnover battle by more than 2, by more than 1, so if they lose it by 2, and they lose contain on Childs. That's it. That's the 2 things. Turnover battle by 2 and losing that contain, I think.
Yeah, and
the running game's not there either. It's Childs and Mark.
There's nothing that they do well. I mean, statistically, their best area. What was it? It was.
You remember? You know what game? This game. God, and I hate to say it. This game could turn into that. It makes me afraid. You remember the Plaxico Burress come out game when he 200 and some yards and just because we were supposed to win that game too, and he just came out and manhandled our secondary, and they just threw it to him. And that's the only game I can think that they'd have to play that perfect game plan where we screw up, turn the ball over, and they just start airing it out to Marsh, and he just dominates.
Yeah.
But even then, I just don't see it.
No,
it's the perfect form for them to pull this off.
Yeah, look. If I'm filling in the blank, Michigan State wins if, I don't know, Michigan's bus doesn't make it to East Lansing. I mean, that could be the only way. But like, if we're talking like in the actual game itself, Jared, I'm in the same boat as you. I think it's really turnovers. And we saw last weekend, right? Michigan-Washington, that game was 7-7 at the half. And then all of a sudden you saw DeMond Williams throw 3 interceptions in the second half. And that really changed the whole trajectory of that game.
Yep.
If there's one thing or a couple of things you want to talk about Bryce Underwood, his leadership and his arm ability and all this other stuff, like, yeah, he's got all of that, but he also doesn't turn the ball over. He's pretty good about that. And I think if this Michigan offense can afford or can avoid, I should say, giving up possessions to Michigan State, if they can avoid doing that, I think that this is going to be a very comfortable win for the Michigan Wolverines. I think they're going to cover. I think it's going to be more than 2 touchdowns. That's the only way I see Michigan State staying in this game, is if Michigan is committing costly turnovers that is giving Aiden Childs and that Michigan State offense, which quite honestly is not very good, but you give them extra possessions at home in a rivalry game. We've seen it. Things can happen. Things can go sideways.
Crazy. Fans are going to be crazy. I mean, you're starting tailgate at 8 in the morning, games at 7:30. It's going to be raucous. Just
a bunch of drunkards in the stands cheering on their Spartans, hoping for a miracle. And you can't. That's the thing. You got to jump on them early. You can't ever let them believe that this game is ever going to be within reach. And that's got to be the message from Sharon Moore. As we are now at 1 hour and 10 minutes, Jared, let's get to our score prediction. I will throw it off to you. Give us a score prediction for Saturday night, Michigan State.
Yeah, I think they're going to cover, but I think it's going to be 34-14. I think Michigan will make some mistakes because they're going to force some stuff. I think they'll put them in a good position. So I think State will score a touchdown off a turnover, not necessarily a pick six, but they'll get a good field position. They'll get a score, and then I think, just like I've said about Bryce, I'm not a Nick Marsh fan, but I'm a fan of the kid's skills. I think he's inevitable. I think he'll get a touchdown too. I think he'll get one out of there. So I think 34-14. But comfortable. 14. A game where they're never really, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You're
feels like a 30-point win.
You're a little more generous than I am. I've got Michigan 41, MSU 13. I think this is going to be a dominant game for the Michigan Wolverines.
So
I do think it's going to get out of hand pretty early. And I do think Michigan is going to be able to continue to produce offensively, even with its reserves in the game. I think that they are going to continue to just put it on the Michigan State Spartans. I think that that's the beauty of this rivalry. You do want to make a statement, but like we talked about before we went live, Jared, this is the type of game where if you lose it, it's a big deal. If you win it, it's like, meh, it's 3-4 Michigan State, right? There's not going to be that much celebration.
We keep Paul. That's a big
exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, the team for sure. And if you live in the state of Michigan, like, yes, you obviously want to be on the winning side of the rivalry. But in terms of the national conversation or how you view Michigan and potentially being in the college football playoff, this game is not going to sway anybody one way or the other, unless if you're Michigan, you lose it. Then it's going to become a national story. And that's kind of dangerous. And Michigan State is going to come in with intentions to upset. I just think this one's going to get ugly. So like I said, 41-13. The Michigan Wolverines, good guys, get another one. They get their 4th consecutive win for the first time since 2007, I think was the last time it happened. We said it earlier in the show. Here's what I know. One way or another, win, lose, draw, whatever the hell happens, if there's melee, if it turns into WWE there on the field, I'll be in the mix. Jared, you'll be in the stands throwing haymakers, and then we'll be back here on Monday at 6 p.m. to talk all about it. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about a convincing Michigan win at that point. I appreciate everybody switching over to YouTube. I will figure out the Facebook thing. Look, Jared, listen, make some calls within the government, please. Get me Mark Zuckerberg's number. I got to figure out what the hell happened with the Facebook stream, because that's our bread and butter. We got to be live over there. We'll get to work on that. We'll pay your Facebook bill. I'll have to look into it. Am I paying for Facebook now? I feel like you pay for everything else. It's only a matter of time before you start paying for all of your app services as well, your social media services. We'll get that figured out over the weekend. Until then, I appreciate all you guys stopping in. We will see you Monday at 6 p.m. Jared, take care.